comes back to love and friendship. If you don't have that, what do you have?
If you're not careful, you lose sight of who you used to be in that friendship realm.
That's not being a good friend.
That makes me not like you. So that could become very problematic in a marriage. Dear Lord, we thank you for this amazing day. We thank you for this month, for this new series that we are about to talk about in terms of intimacy. We pray that we can reach the people who really desire to hear and learn more about this topic. We pray that it would convict some couples to dive deeper into their intimacy with their partner, and that they would use you as the navigator and the guiding path for that. We give you all the glory in Jesus' name.
Amen.
Amen. We're not perfect people.
By any means.
But by trusting in God, we learned what it takes to build a friendship,
a relationship,
and marriage that has stood the test of time.
With a keeping it real style, we're going to talk to you about everything.
Everything
that we've been through,
are going through,
and have overcome. All by learning how to lean on God and each other.
In order to help you learn how to love by faith. Welcome to February.
February's here.
Best month of the year.
You love February, don't you?
I love February. There's just so much goodness into it.
Yeah.
There's Valentine's Day.
Mm-hmm.
There's Chinese New Year. I like Chinese culture. What's wrong with Chinese food? And
nothing. I thought you'd go Black History Month.
You know, Mulan was Black History Month. Mulan was my favorite movie, so it all comes together.
Yeah.
It's my birthday.
It is. I think that's the most important reason that you're so giddy about February.
It's just after being a mom through all of the seasons, finally I get like my month to just treat yourself. I mean, you're treating me, but treat me all the time.
I know what you mean. I like celebrating you, so that's cool with me. I like seeing you smile and laugh and cry. You always get emotional when I get you good stuff.
I always tend to want to watch like the Miyazaki movies in February because it's my birthday month.
Yeah.
And I get so into the Miyazaki movies.
They always put you in your happy place.
Oh, I love it. And there's like flowers everywhere and it's like full of love and it's like chocolate 70% off. What? Like, yes.
They're kind of that is.
Give it all to me. Thank you, Lord.
That's funny.
But of course I thought this would be a really good month.
It is.
To talk about intimacy.
Yeah. Friendship.
Other ships.
Taking care of your partner.
Yes.
It's good.
Yes.
All comes back to love and friendship. If you don't have that, what do you have?
Friends.
Right? When you hear from so many people who think like, oh, we just become roommates,
Yeah, man. I mean, there's so much more beyond that.
And so we're here to help you not do that.
You'd be sleeping in the two beds like back in the old days, the two twin beds.
Yeah.
Which I found a really good research article about why they did that.
Okay.
It turns out they did that because they thought if you breathed in other people's breath in close proximity for long periods of time that you would get sick.
I mean, technically they were right. If they have germs and you breathe it in.
But I mean, but that's why everybody slept in the two twin beds, because it was to protect people from germs and it was for health issues.
Really? Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so much for that.
Started pushing the beds together and
so much for
they elevated their friendship, if you know what I mean.
Silly. That's funny. We've been in the series talking about foundations and about getting the foundation laid nice and tight for your relationship.
Tight and right.
Correcting the little cracks, getting all the alignment set up so that you're on the same page spiritually.
Yes.
You're on the same page with the expectations of how your relationship is going to go and going to grow.
Mm-hmm.
You're on the same page with your
Oh,
prayer life,
mm-hmm.
with your spiritual life.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and so I think the next obvious move is to talk about your foundation of your friendship.
Yes. When we first ever mentioned the term intimacy,
Yeah.
it was 2 episodes ago, when we were talking about spiritual leadership. So if you haven't listened to any of those episodes before, go back and listen to a couple of those. And when we talked about intimacy, I brought up the reference of the way I crave you spiritually
Mm-hmm.
is the way you crave me physically.
Right.
And at the end of the day, it's really just the intimacy that the woman was longing for within the spiritual portion of their marriage. And so we thought that would just naturally flow into this conversation.
It does.
Intimacy, right? And so, we're talking about this conversation, and Kyle and I were trying to say, like, okay, well, where do we start when it comes to intimacy? Because it's really the one thing that couples can share that they cannot share with anybody else, besides God. That's what makes it so special, such a three-braided cord, is because it's that intimacy that locks everybody together.
Right.
And Kyle said you can't get to intimacy until you get to the friendship part.
Right.
And that's so true. And it's kind of difficult in this day and age because you have the whole digital dating and you have, all of this online. And so people are building friendships through screens.
Yeah.
Or when we go on dates, they're only trying to focus on the dating factors. Is he compatible for marriage? Is she the person that I could see myself, long term with? You're not really thinking about the friendship part.
Yeah.
And then it's also like from the other side of the spectrum, it's hard because people become friends.
Right.
And then they fear the risk of being friend zoned.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? And so they don't want to be friends too much for too long, because then it's going to feel weird if they try to break through that friendship and try to go into a deeper level of intimacy and try to become something that's more romantic relationship.
I remember when we were dating, the time where we didn't have we weren't being physical, where we were just getting to know each other, getting used to each other, going out and doing things. It was so much fun. It was so much fun to just explore a new place with you, explore a new adventure with you, see you in a different setting, see you in a different crowd, see you somewhere where we're super comfortable. See you in one of the dates that I picked where you were less comfortable. Yeah. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so I found it fun to experience those new things with you, right? And you pick places for us to go on dates, like the botanical garden. Right, never been.
I'm gonna make you go there this February.
And so it was a fun adventure, right? To get to just, all right, let's go see what this is about. And you get to see your person in different settings, and seeing your person in different settings can unlock parts of their personality, parts of their character that you never saw coming. Yeah. You know what I mean? In a good way. And you get to know them better, and you get to feel them better, and you get to understand them better. And it might unlock memories of when they were young and this was a place they went to. You know what I mean? And so I cherish all those moments where we went on new dates, new places.
I wrote an article for the Huffington Post.
Yeah.
And the title was How the Friend Zone Almost Cost Me my Marriage. And it was all about those really fun times. Yeah. And for me, trying to be a modest woman, trying to develop a relationship, not yet knowing that I had a crush on you just yet, like we're just friends. I felt good there. And I said, why do we have to change this up? And it wasn't until my cousin told me, it's like God is giving you the boat and you're drowning in the water. Oh. And you're just like, Lord, rescue me, save me. And then the boat comes and you're like, that's okay. God will save me. And then, you came again with another friend date. And I'm like, that's okay. God will save me. Like, he's not it yet, but my husband will be here soon enough. And then you come back a third time and I'm like, no. And then I eventually drown and like, God, what happened? I thought you were going to send me my husband, and God's like,
I sent it
what
3
are you
times.
doing?
What do you want?
What are you doing? Like, I did it.
You missed the message.
I had to take the risk of turning the friend into the boyfriend, eventually. And so that's kind of like the beginning stages of your friendship. If you are friends with somebody and you're like, I don't know if I should tippy toe into crossing over, like obviously God is going to give you the confirmation. He definitely gave me a confirmation in the middle of a young youth ministry meeting that we had at Kyle's house. I was eating a pork chop, and just in the middle of me eating this pork chop, I'm like, oh dear Lord, I think I have a crush on Kyle. And it just, everything from that moment changed. And I knew that was God telling me, like, you have a crush, like, this is what it is. And so I had to, carry on through that. But you get into this fun phase, right? We're friends, we're having fun. And now you're bringing in the romance part. And so it's even better because, like, I know this person as my friend. I could be silly with them. I could share memes with them. I could be myself around them because they're my friend before they were my lover. But oftentimes when you get married and life happens, right? Your job gets stressed, the bills get high, the kids start to come into the place. And your friendship is usually one of those first things that tend to just fade away and drift away, because I don't know. It just almost feels like now I'm more of a wife than I am of a friend, or now I'm more of a husband than I am of a friend. So now you start to play this role more heavily, and then because of the other things that require your attention, you start to play those roles more heavily. And before you know it, if you're not careful, you lose sight of who you used to be in that friendship realm and how to even treat your partner as a friend. And so that could become very problematic in a marriage.
It's so funny. I hear you. These things you say, right? And it goes back so much to what our experience is, right? You grew up in a household where your parents or one parent has dealt with, I'm going to use me for example.
Okay.
Right? I had a 2-parent household growing up. My parents were awesome together. They were a team. I remember them going out on dates forever. Dad bringing flowers all the time. Mom, looking out for dad on certain things and like making sure he's going out for guys' nights.
Yeah.
That, each partner brings different things into that.
Yeah.
Right. And so the guy might have grown up in a household where it was, no friendship.
Yeah.
Dad was cold or mom was cold, and they did different things. Right. And that was how it happened. And so I say all that to say that people looking at where they came from.
Yeah.
To see, hey, is this how I envision my marriage being? Is this where I need to be the right guy for my girl? You know what I mean? And taking that and applying it, and really, you gotta really look at yourself in the mirror and say, hey, am I being a good friend to my wife? Am I being a good friend to my husband? And then, really having a true inventory of yourself with that. You know what I mean? And then go from there. You talk to a ton of women. What do women say about friendship in their relationships? I think this is a good spot to take a break, to drink some coffee.
Hey everybody, this is Kyle. Thank you so much for your support and listening to this podcast. This year, as we go through our foundation series, we wanted to offer you a new handout. Hot off the presses, it's called the Relationship Resource Toolkit. This handout is a list compiled by Selina and me, of course, as a useful tool. What we think are great devotionals, books, podcasts, and Bible readings. These are tools you and your partner can use to help learn and grow and understand more about your relationship. Take your relationship to the next level with this toolkit. These were all things that have helped us along the way, and now we have a one-stop shop for you. Use the link in the description to download the free Relationship Resource Toolkit and keep choosing to love by faith.
It's either one or the other. It's either, he's my best friend.
Yeah.
Or it's, we're there. He's there, and they're just a husband. They don't see it as a friend. And maybe they used to at a long time ago, but with stress and balancing everything and juggling everything, it just becomes more of like a punching bag. Like I hear a lot of women just using their husband as a punching bag. Like, oh, I have to tell him everything. I have to do everything for him. He's like my fourth child. I'm sorry, I don't like to use that word, but I really despise when people compare my husband to my fourth child.
Wow.
You're not my child.
Yeah.
But there are so many women out there who treat them like that. And then you have to think about the way society is viewing the wife and husband relationship. In almost every single sitcom, the husband is the Dutz. He's the joke he's the pun. He doesn't know what he's doing. Like, think about, Everybody Loves Raymond and Homer Simpson and all of these father figures, all of these husband figures. Like, they're just a klutz who doesn't know anything, and it's really the wife who keeps it together. It's like in My Big Fat Greek Wedding, the husband is the head, but the wife is the neck that turns the head.
Yeah.
And a lot of women once they get married, they take it as like, oh yeah, you're the leader on paper. But really, there's a lot of disrespect that goes in there. There's a lot of control that goes in there. And then because you're not leaning on your friendship, because you're not going back to, this is a person that I like being around. I love them, but I also like them. I think a lot of women forget to know what it's like to like their person, and vice versa. And to your point about going back to your background, going back to your childhood, only childs. If they are so used to having their own space, if they are so used to being by themselves, learning how to be by themselves, coping, how to deal with things by themselves, it's going to be really hard to have a friend and invite them into everything, much less alone have a marriage and invite them into everything. And so if you are trying to be friends with this person and you have this romantic relationship and you're trying to get along with them, and then they're like, okay, that's great, I love it, I'm all for it, but I need my space too. Totally healthy. But sometimes your own space becomes your own world that you don't invite the other person into. And so because you're not inviting the other person into that, now you're creating the distance. And so it makes it that much harder for the friendship to form and grow into something that can be shared together.
Wow. And I just want to make the point about, you said how the woman feels like it's their fourth child.
Yes.
I think a lot of that is on the dude.
Yeah.
If you have to be mothered around, if you have to be pulled by the hand,
preach.
I fail at this a lot. If she has to remember everything, she has to remember the calendar, she has to remember the dates, she has to remember the appointments. If you don't even know your kid's teacher's name, come on, bro. Don't be that dude.
It's decision fatigue.
It becomes decision fatigue for the lady, but for the man, I think it's unfair burdening of your spouse.
Yes.
You're just dropping all this. Well, she's got that. I pay the bills. She can handle that.
Right.
And that's not fair.
And that makes me not want to be your friend.
That's not being a good friend.
That makes me not like you. Like, I'm good on that.
There's a certain capacity that she has to pull the weight for the relationship. There's a certain capacity that you have to pull the weight for the relationship. But when it comes to friendship, that pulling the weight is a team. If you're just throwing responsibility and weight and stuff on her, she's not gonna be your friend. She's gonna be pissed at you for being a bad boss. Or for just being bossy, period.
I want to also bring up the point of, like, if you are a male, have you ever had friends that were female? And if you didn't, you might not know how to be a friend with your wife. It might have, I can understand why it's challenging, or vice versa. If you're a woman and you never had male friends, I can understand how having a friendship with your spouse would be challenging without the other parts of the intimacy, without going to the physical part, without going into the affectionate part, like just solely being their friend. I could see how they don't know how to do that and how they would even try. Maybe they never considered it. Maybe at their dates, it was fun, but it was also flirty, and so that's how they got by. Well, sometimes, you have to remove I wouldn't even say remove the flirting part, but, physical is not going to, it's only going to take you so far in a relationship.
Yeah.
And so when you no longer have the physical part that is the forefront of what's driving your passion, you're going to need that friendship to fall back on. Right. And so this episode is really just like, how do you build that backdrop so that you have something to lean on when everything else is kind of shaky or weak, or you're just plain old. Like, I'm 87 years old, bro. I just want to play checkers with you. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, let's just play checkers and sip iced tea and, just watch The Price is Right. Like, I need to have a friend at that stage of my life. And so how do you build that? How do you build that friendship is what we want to really talk about in the second half of this episode. And so it all goes back to your friendship. It goes back to understanding how you were raised. It goes back to, how do your friends look now?
Yeah.
What does your friendship circle look like today? Like, do you even have friends?
Right.
Or are you solely relying on this one person who is also your partner? Like, it gets kind of complicated, but it also is really fulfilling when you can grow these areas in your life, because then it supports this other area.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
The way you described 87 and playing checkers and sipping tea.
Yes.
That's a really good thought, right? Because then it's a good place to start, right? Start with the end in mind. How do we get to this goal of being able to just sit around and play checkers and know, like, that's cool, right? It starts at the beginning. It starts at the foundation. Talking about the foundation, getting the foundation right.
It when you did that, it made me think of Pee Wee Herman, the word of the day. Do you remember Pee Wee Herman's Playhouse?
Yeah.
Like, foundation.
Actually, I didn't remember that, but I remember you showing me that a long time ago.
Please Google it, guys. Pee Wee Herman's Playhouse, word of the day.
Couples, when their friendship is intentional.
Yes.
Right? Friendship, when it's going great, when it's at its peak, is effortless, is just connecting and just being bonded. It's awesome. You know what I mean? But it takes work and time to get up to that.
Yes.
You have to invest in that. You have to put date nights in the budget. You have to put babysitter time in the budget. You have to put time in your schedule to call and check on your wife. Say, hey, how's it going today, hon? Anything you need from me today? Where am I missing the mark today? You know what I mean? And you have to also be aware of how she's doing on your own without asking, Like, there's days where I come home from work and she's just done, bro. Had a hard day at work. We always say you had a hard day at work when she's been home. It's 3 kids and it's a snow day and they're just driving her crazy. And I see it, I'm like, bro, you're tagged out. Kiss. See ya. See ya when it's time to kiss the kids goodnight, because I got you. I see it. You know what I mean? No questions asked. I don't even have to pry in. I don't have to. Do you need me to give you a? No, you see it. And yeah, I just came home from work and I worked my butt off all day. So what? Yeah. So what? This is my better than my job here. Get to be around my kids.
I would say yes and no. Like, I think what you're describing is the intimacy of your friendship with your partner. Like, that's when you've reached your intimacy where you can be able to help your partner through your friendship into your spouse-ship.
Okay.
But it goes back before that. How do you form that? You need to be able to like your partner.
Like them.
You need to like them. You need to know that what the meme that I'm going to share them, they're going to laugh at.
Yeah.
You need to know that the movies that you guys are going to watch together, you're both going to enjoy. You need to know that the activities that you're into, they're either going to be into it or they're willing to, like, come along for the ride because they like you and they want to be there with you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You have to be able to just carry a conversation about anything. You'll see, like, something on the floor as you're walking in the park and be like, what's that doing there? And that carries a whole conversation because you guys know how to talk to each other about nothing. You know what I'm saying? Like, the friendship that you need to have with your person can be reflected as a friendship that you can have with anybody, regardless of their age or class or whatever. And then because you invite the love into that, and because you invite the romance into that and all of the other intimacies into that spiritual intimacy, then it becomes what you're saying, where it's like, I see her, I know her, I recognize the signs, and I'm going to come in and help because I like her and I love her, and I know that that's what would help her in that situation. Right. I think what you're describing is the intimacy part, but before you can even get there, you have to know how to like them in the nothingness.
Right. So again, I think it takes us to peel back another layer to go back further. If that friendship is falling off,
yes.
If you're not liking your spouse, if you're finding yourself just feeling like that roommate spot, we got to start over.
Yeah.
You got to go on basic dates.
Yes.
Dinner and a movie, right? Walk through the park and holding hands.
Yes.
Go to the carnival, go play the cheesy games and win a stuffed animal, and just talk about life. What's your job like? What's your day like?
What are you into?
What's your favorite show right now?
And I know you guys, so what if you've been married for 48 years? Okay. Right. If you don't like your spouse, if the kids finally left and you guys are empty nesters and you're just staring at each other and you're like, this person really annoys me.
Yeah.
Go back to the first dates. Go back to the first time you met each other.
Right.
Because that person, you guys are not the same.
Right.
You're not the same as you were 48 years ago. Your likes could be different. Your dislikes could be different. Your passions could be different. Your feelings could be different. Your thoughts, your goals, your dreams, all of these things are different. And I think I talked about this last night, and I hope I say it the same way. But when you lose sight of the friendship and when you don't want to invest and pour into the friendship that you have with your partner, it's almost as if you are assuming that you know everything about them and that there's nothing else to learn about them. There's nothing else to take in about them. And you just assume that they stop growing because of that, because in theory, we're always evolving. We are always growing. Right. We are always going to have new experiences, new thoughts, new feelings. And so if you're just like, oh, I already know everything about him, there's no need for me to go on a first date. There's no need for me to get to know them. And what I see is what I have. And I don't need to know anything else. Like, you're assuming that person stopped growing. Which essentially is you stopping the growth of your relationship.
Right.
Because you're not allowing that person to grow, because you're assuming that you know everything and there's no need to take time to be curious enough to get to know them all over again. Right. That stops a friendship. That stops a relationship. And so we have to stay curious.
Right.
And we have to always keep the open mind of like, yes, I knew this person 10 years ago and I married him, but who is he today? After everything that we went through together, I've seen what he's gone through because I was there with him, but your perspective might be different. Your thoughts might be different. Your passions, your pursuit, your heart is definitely different. And I want to get to know that.
Absolutely. Getting to that desire internal is huge. Because if that burns out, it's a scary place, right?
It's a very scary place.
And I think the takeaway there is communication.
Always.
As well, it's hard. That's a hard spot.
Yeah.
Because there's partners who avoid conflict.
Yes.
There's partners who don't voice what they're feeling.
Yes.
There's partners who are afraid or who have been shut down in the past for sharing their feelings.
Yes.
And so the communication lines have to be open, right? For the guys, you have to be willing to take one on the chin when she says she feels like your roommates, and you're like, what do you mean? I do this and I do that, and you get defensive, and you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Or you got to be willing to be vulnerable and say, I feel like that too, but I don't want to be like that. I don't want to see us get the D word or anything like that.
Vulnerable. That is a huge keyword.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's possible. Well, it is possible, but it's much easier to become vulnerable when you have a friend in that person.
But I'm saying but they're at the point where there's no friendship right now. They need to rebuild. They need to both be willing to talk about it.
So it's a risk.
Yeah.
You have to risk opening yourself.
Vulnerable. You have to put yourself out there like, hey, hon, or hey, lady who I live with.
Hey, lady.
We're not I'm not feeling like your friend right now, or you feeling like we're not friends, we're just ships passing.
Yeah.
Like, let's work on this, right?
Yeah.
I think that's huge, and that's a good takeaway.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Communicate it. Talk about how you're feeling. Be open with your partner.
Be curious.
Be real. Take inventory on yourself.
Don't be afraid to go back to square one.
Know where you came from. Know how you grew up. Know what's analyze what went wrong when you were growing up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? What went
Bring
right.
awareness to who you are.
And share that with your partner. That's a good way to start. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then work on it. It's gonna take work. Friendship takes work.
And not only that, but it's gonna feel weird.
It might.
It's
if
gonna
it's
feel
been
weird.
disconnected.
If it's been disconnected and you guys are on a date and he's like, so what do you like to do for fun? And it's like, what? Like, I've been with you all day. What do you mean? Like, no, like, legit answer the question.
You get there, right, or as the guy, you get there and you're like, oh man, what am I going to talk about with her? Kids, house, work, throw all those things out. Talk about her. Talk about you. Vision cast. Talk about the future. Talk about the past. Talk about what was your favorite time in our relationship? You know?
Yeah.
Like, that's a great way to go back to the good stuff. Go back to where the foundation stones are the best.
Go back to all those things when you started the question with, you know what we should do? And then fill in the blank of all of the times you've said that in all of the span of your relationship, and then go do those things. You know, because you have kids and because you have a job, sometimes it's hard to just be like, oh, I don't know. I don't know what I would do. It's been so long since I was able to even have that thought. Yeah. So you might not be able to answer that question. But again, it goes back to being curious and being able to talk about nothing. Because when you guys can get comfortable enough to laugh and to think and to just be yourself around a nothing, then you can pour into the other things. You can pour into how you feel and what you dream about. And then it can overflow into every other thing. And now you have this comfort with your person. You know how to talk to this person. You know that you're vulnerable enough to talk and share your feelings and opinions about anything, right? Because you started with nothing. And then your friendship can start to form.
When we're talking about the takeaways, intentionality is another one. We're talking and being real about, we want to be better friends. I want to be better friends with you. I've been slacking. I've been lacking on being a good friend. I want to be better. Just be there for your person. And I think if you're there for them, they'll be there for you. When you need to vent and you need to pour into them, it'll go both ways when you let it.
You might not be able to let all of your friends in to those secret spaces, but that's why it's so important to have intimacy in your friendship within your spousal relationship, your marriage, and your couple, because even though you can't share that with your homies, right? You can't share certain information with your homies, or maybe they're so, engulfed in their circles and their worlds, which is normal and healthy as well. You have that person that you can go to, and that's what makes that friendship special. That's what makes that friendship intimate. And that's what makes your relationship grow at the end of the day. Thank you guys for watching and for tuning in, and everything that Kyle said, I echo as well. Please be sure to leave us a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify. If you're watching on YouTube, give us a like, subscribe to the channel. That way you get all of the updates. I love doing this with you.
It's fun.
You're my friend. You're my best friend. Thank you so much for doing this with me. We hope to see you guys next week.
Yeah.
Peace. Have a good day.
See you guys.
Bye.